look forward to you coming with no qualifications attached to your report.
As part of the recommendations, isn't it?
But we like the improvement. Narrative B.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, guys. We know that there's a lot of work sitting behind that. Thank you, Di, because we know Peter gives you all the work to do. And everybody else in the team, yeah. Okay, I was going back to item number 16. Yay, food forests and edible plantings. Andrew, welcome. Do you want to come up here or not? Probably doesn't.
Novice.
This is Andrew, who's been in the job for about 3 weeks and may be regretting it. Okay, this is a report that has been around in bits and pieces, and yeah, there are some supplementary bits of information that I thought might be useful for people to understand. For example, because people have asked, can they plant on berms? You might like to answer that one, Andrew, and just how much space there is that Christchurch has for potential edible food forests.
Okay, I guess to address the first part of that question, planting on berms, it's not something that we would like to see happen. I guess that the reason is related to your second question, which is how much space do we have? We have ample parks space to facilitate community-led programs. Planting in the road reserve obviously offers up significant risks in terms of buried infrastructure, depending on the format of the berm, direct runoff of contaminants from the road, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So it's not something that we want to pursue from a...
It's fine.
Yep.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Phil, Pauline, Yanni?
Thanks
David?
for the report, Andrew. Look, I'm just taken from, for example, 6.2, where the recommendation is to involve strengthening community resources. And without there being reference specifically in the report, I've assumed from the potential garden sites and the maps of those, one is Ngāpunawai, the other Shirley, and then also Mountford Park, that there be like an expectation that strengthening communities might be involved with any local community groups who might be interested or keen to plant some food forests or edible gardens. Is that the direction that recommendation was leaning in?
Yes, it is. And I guess there's another report that's going to support this report, which is all about the development of the charter, the policy that underpins it. This report is really about getting a trial underway as quickly as we can so that we can refine those policies and those charters.
Okay. And so my further question really is, when that further report comes, I'd be interested in being able to kind of like give an overview of the other aspects of the garden that relate to Garden City. For example, the Community Pride Garden Awards, even including as part of where this fits, because it just seems to me it's all around gardens and tying it together, so that we kind of like have the information in a couple of pages. And that's another feature which I would like. And like the other part too is where, for example, Keeping Christchurch Beautiful, where that fits in terms of this whole area of work. And I'm not wanting to ask for an enormous report, but just that kind of like, what I'd like to see, and like strengthening communities as an example, it's so that these different parts of our garden city, the flower and the edible garden part, can be aligned.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I'm aware you haven't been here long, Andrew, so I'm not asking you to do it tomorrow.
Yes, sure.
Thank you. For this to work, it needs to be community-led, because the idea of this is that community groups take ownership of these and do the maintenance, not the council, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So have the community been involved in identifying these sites?
I believe they have. There's been roughly about 4 council officers working internally, and they've had liaison with the horticultural husbandry unit around how to get these trials up and running. But in terms of active community groups at the moment, I'm not entirely sure if they've been involved to this stage.
This concerns me, but can you tell me exactly where the Shirley one is? I'm sorry, it's in my ward, but there's no streets on the map.
Sorry, say again, the Shirley one?
Yeah, the Shirley one, yeah.
I haven't actually got the attachment on my report, sorry. But,
I know, is it run between Hills Road and Slater Street, along behind the back of Hammersley's there? That's it, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not
That's
sure.
very
so-
tucked away as well. So that does concern me a little bit about that. And could I foreshadow an amendment, please? Okay.
Board or something.
Well, unless they've got community buy-in, it's going to be the council end up doing this. And the Shirley one is quite tucked away.
I think, Pauline, I don't have any problem
Might be
with
a
the
good
amendment
idea.
whatsoever, but just in terms of it, these are some suck it and see type trials so that we can see what happens, so that when we roll out fast to the rest,
Yeah.
we've learned some things. I think if there's something else you want to add, where there's a group that want to do something and try something completely.
Okay, so what I
Level.
want to add is in 6.1.1, approve trial sites and locations and other locations as they are requested by the
Yeah.
community.
I don't think
Is that
Andrew will
all
have
right?
a problem with that, will he?
No, I don't have a problem with that. What I would say though is what the staff have done is they've assessed numerous sites to try and come up with some trial sites that will generate the best
Yeah.
opportunity for success. And their drivers around that have been access to potable water and enough facilities on the locations so that the community, that it's likely to succeed.
And as part of that, is that success of the species as well, that we've got the right...
And that's the work they've been doing
varieties.
with the husbandry unit, that's
Yeah.
right.
So do you see a problem with putting that amendment in there?
No, not really.
I mean, we've got a great example in Shirley with the Sunley Orchard, which is now called the Capitoni Orchard, and that's been revamped by community groups, and it's become an education centre as well. People are learning how to prune the tree. So, yeah, I'm very supportive of this, but I don't want it to be limited to the sites that the council selects either.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate that these three are a trial, but if we can just make sure that it is open for other groups as they come forward.
Okay, thanks, Pauline. So we've put that up there, and we'll have I'm assuming nobody's got any problem with it, but if they will, they'll tell me. So I've got David, Yanni, Paul, Jimmy, Phil, Glenn. Have I missed anybody? Andrew, did you want to speak? Sorry, David.
Look, I just note under 5.1 that the work is currently unfunded, and I'm just interested to know what, if any, OPEX we will have from this project and any other staff costings that may be incurred along the way. So can we have in our recommendation, in addition to just have some indication of likely financial costs?
Do you want to answer that? Because you haven't got any budget for it this year, but
Yes,
you've got some for next year.
yes, we can. We can certainly indicate the staff time committed to date and project on a per site basis what the likely council implications are, but until we know how many sites ultimately the community want to run with, that's probably the only way we can present the information.
Just appreciate some information at some stage.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Yanni?
Just in terms of Ngāpunawai, it seemed a bit odd given we're currently consulting, and I was just kind of interested in terms of should we not wait for that consultation before we
We own the land.
make decisions?
Sure. No, I did ask that question of the team that were looking at this. It's actually in a parcel of land at Ngāpunawai that's it's outside the envelope for the sports complex consideration. It's on the fringe.
Okay. So
it follows an existing cycleway and well-used pathway.
So has anyone talked to the AMP Association who have a lease and whether they're affected or not, or whether they have a view?
I don't have the answer to that right now. Sorry.
Is that possible, something that could happen?
Yes, you could. Yep.
So if they were quite concerned, we can work through what the concerns may be and try and find a way through it.
Sure.
Okay.
Prize-winning fruit in the show
Yeah, they could. Yeah. Paul?
for free.
I'm actually hugely supportive of this. The only thing I'll flag is It should be community-led, but we have to really understand that actually appropriate species and the planting methodology are hugely important. We've done one already in some up in the valley, community-led, but they had a person who understood the sustainability of the whole food forest, and that sustainability will actually reduce the operational costs because it should be self-sustainable. So whilst they should be community-led, we do need someone who actually understands the appropriateness of species and the planting methodology. So fully supportive.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you. One question. Attachment 1, the Napuna White site. You mean the potential for at least 150 the new plant. Focus on Napuna White walkway only, or is across the Canterbury Park area? Total 150 or just Napuna White?
Sorry, are you talking about the total of the Ngāpunawai site, or?
Yeah. Because in here, you particularly mentioned 3 pilot sites. One is Ngāpunawai, potential for 150 new plant.
Yeah.
You know, but attachment 1 in here looks like Ngāpunawai plus Canterbury the agricultural park together, joined together. So total 150, or is it separate?
No, that's separate. It's one. Ngāpunawai is a long, narrow strip within Ngāpunawai,
Yes.
which is isolated by a pathway cycleway.
Yes.
So I think what the staff were trying to point out is that's quite there's a lot of potential there. They can get up to 150 plants in that one site.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
So cover the Canterbury agricultural park as well. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You and I
Thank you.
can go and plant them, Jimmy, with all the neighbours.
Pardon?
You and I will go and plant them with all the neighbours. Phil?
Well, look, I'd just probably like to speak to some aspects of it,
You can.
Vicky, but also...
Yep. Can I just check if Glenn's has a question then?
Yeah.
You want to speak too? So we finished the questions. You're off the hook. Phil, speak.
Look, it is really from how, in fact, community can be involved with this now. And I know there's a recommendation that way, and I'm sure that strengthening communities are the ideal staff to be involved. There's also reference in 2.4 that community boards will be asked to work with local community groups. And I think rather than sort of asking the boards to be involved, I think we should make a recommendation that this report goes for their consideration, so that they look, for example, when they look at the sites in their community, they can consider how these pieces of land might be utilised to achieve the project.
Then and send for the other ones to the community boards?
Well, I don't agree actually, Vicky. I think that if we're going to get the planting underway and with the community involved, we should involve the community boards, let them know about it as soon as possible.
Yes.
The reason being, it just feels a bit like the seed coming down from top, but we need to sort of, excuse the analogy, cultivate the ground too, and that means working with the community.
I think
and,
just
and
to
involving the community boards.
What you're saying, Phil, is you don't want to hold this decision up, but you're saying after it, can it go to the community boards?
For their information
Yes.
and further
Yeah.
sites. Okay. Do you want to word that? That this recommendation go to community boards for their input and further site analysis, which is the bit that Pauline's... Yeah. Okay. Glenn?
No. I think the question's been answered.
Okay, great. Andrew?
Thank you. I really welcome this. As somebody that was involved with a community group in Littleton that attempted to do something like this a number of years ago and came up against resistance from council, I really welcome this piece of work, and I think it's something that's long overdue. There are plenty of overseas examples where this sort of thing is working perfectly. In terms of community sustainability, it gets all of the ticks, I think it's fair to say. So whilst I welcome these initial trial projects, I do believe that this needs to be absolutely driven by the community. The community boards have a role to play, but there are community groups that are already active in this area with community gardens that certainly have a very strong role to play as well. And I'd welcome the identification through those community groups and individuals with the knowledge and communities and the community boards, identification of more areas where these sorts of plantings can take place. And, you know, my vision would be for this to encompass plantings on roadsides and reserves and neighbourhood parks and berms and all sorts of areas. I'd like that to be fully explored. And here we are talking about fruit trees, but there are plenty of other foods that can be grown other than that which grows on trees, and there may be opportunities to explore again how we could use roundabouts and roadsides and so on for that sort of thing as well, with appropriate controls and with appropriate policy in place. So as a starting point, I think this is excellent, but I look forward to the rest of the story.
Thank you. Ellie?
Yay is all I can say. And maybe we should call Christchurch, the fruity little city, or city that fruits, I don't know, with the nuts. But I just wonder, I wonder if maybe some of my colleagues are misunderstanding a prescriptive element of this that I don't see there, actually. What I'm seeing up there is that within reason, and it's got to go through council, I guess, because I don't think you can plant trees on roundabouts and so forth, but essentially 6.1.1 states that we can start planting when the community requests that they start planting. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't think, that whole thing about trial sites, I think that we can just go for it, can't we, really?
So we've got 3 trial sites because just before you came in, Andrew was explaining that there were some things they wanted to learn from
And
that.
I spoke to Andrew this morning about that too, with regards to water and the issues about the location of them. But when I spoke to Andrew this morning, I also asked if we did have other areas. St Albans is a good example. Would it be a matter of someone just picking up the phone and saying there's a really nice little corner of St Albans Park, does it fit the criteria, etc.? And you say, yes, that'd be marvellous. And I say, right, I'm going to put an apple tree in there on Saturday. Are we at that stage?
Look, the thing is that we have to be careful that we're not going to create jobs for council in the future. So it can't just be one person saying, I want to put a tree here, can it? You have to have some sort of buy-in that these are going to be taken care of and maintained.
Well.
Otherwise, and there's also things like power lines and other considerations. So there does have to be some structure around this, and I think that the way for this to be progressive for community groups would be first of all to approach their community boards about it.
I think you get both, actually, Ellie. You get a start made on it, and you start to get. I think there will be a number of people ringing. That's why I got Andrew's direct line. Put it on my Facebook page. I didn't, don't worry. It's okay. Okay, so are we good now? Yep.
Could I just ask that we amend the 6.3 in relation?
Yep.
It's more.
Just tell us the
their
amendment.
information, and it's more their consideration of future possibilities around the project. It's not there for that. Because already, for example, there's already one. Mountford Park is right.
Sure.
The centre of our
Consideration of further site possibilities.
They're not. No, it's not really.
Okay,
well, they
just tell us what you want.
It's just further possibilities around this project.
For their information and consideration of further possibilities around this project. Okay? Okay. Cool. Moved, Ellie?
Thank you.
Moved, Ellie?
No, I'm just looking at what...
I think consideration of further possibilities covers every possible input that you can have. Yeah. Okay. Moved, Ellie. Seconded, Pauline? Okay. I'll put that. Those in favour, please say aye. Those opposed, carried. Thank you very much indeed.